The sterile scent of antiseptic clung to the air, a constant reminder of life's fragile balance. In the relentless ballet of a hospital, speed was currency, efficiency a god. Every hurried step, every clipped command, echoed the urgent rhythm of survival. But what if the most profound care wasn't measured in seconds saved, but in moments shared? What if the hands that moved slowest held the greatest comfort? She knew the whispers, the sidelong glances, the unspoken judgment that her frame didn't fit the mold of swift, agile nursing. Yet, as the world around her raced, she moved with a different purpose, drawn to the quiet corners where time seemed to unravel. To a man whose days were numbered, she offered not a cure, but a presence. A promise that in the face of the inevitable, no one would be left behind. But could a heart-led pace truly thrive in a system built for speed? And what unseen battles would she fight to prove that compassion, not velocity, was the true measure of healing? If this powerful opening has already captured your heart and curiosity, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to bring more deeply human and inspiring narratives like this one to life. Thank you. The fluorescent lights of St. Jude's Hospital hummed with an almost oppressive brightness, casting long, stark shadows down the pristine hallways. The air, thick with the scent of disinfectant and faint traces of illness, was a constant reminder of the life and death drama unfolding within its walls. For Clara Jensen, this was her new world. Her first day as a registered nurse at St. Jude's, a bustling, state-of-the-art medical facility in the heart of a vibrant American city, felt like stepping onto a stage where every movement was scrutinized, every second counted. Clara was a woman of substantial build, her frame generous and solid, a testament to a life lived with hearty appreciation for comfort and good food. She moved with a deliberate, steady grace, her steps measured rather than hurried. She knew the unspoken narrative that often accompanied her size in a profession that frequently glorified lean, agile figures. She wasn't the fastest in the hallway, nor the one who fit the hospital's glossy image of perfection. But what she lacked in conventional swiftness, she more than made up for in strength, resilience, and an ocean-deep well of empathy. Her uniform, a crisp set of navy blue scrubs, felt both like a badge of honor and a constant, gentle squeeze, reminding her of the external judgments she was determined to defy. Her journey to becoming a nurse hadn't been easy. It was a calling, a deep-seated desire to alleviate suffering that had blossomed after caring for her ailing grandmother years ago. She had faced skepticism in nursing school, subtle biases during clinical rotations, but her unwavering dedication and exceptional academic performance had always silenced the doubters. Now, here she was, ready to put her heart and hands to work. Clara reported to the nursing station on the oncology floor, her assigned unit. Nurse Supervisor Evelyn Reed, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and an impeccably tailored uniform, greeted her with a polite but somewhat reserved smile. Evelyn exuded efficiency, her movements precise, her voice calm but authoritative. "Nurse Jensen," Evelyn began, her gaze sweeping over Clara, lingering for a fraction of a second on her size before meeting her eyes. "Welcome to St. Jude's. We pride ourselves on our rapid response times and patient-centered care. Every second counts here. Your orientation packet outlines our protocols. You'll be shadowing Nurse Miller today." Before Clara could fully respond, a blur of motion zipped past them. Nurse Jessica "Jess" Miller, a slender, energetic young woman with a perpetually hurried air, skidded to a halt. Her blonde ponytail bounced as she adjusted her glasses. "Sorry, Supervisor Reed. Code blue drill on the 4th floor. Just finished." "Excellent, Nurse Miller," Evelyn said, a hint of approval in her voice. "This is Nurse Jensen, your shadow for the day." Jess offered Clara a quick, almost dismissive nod. "Hey, try to keep up. This floor moves fast." Her tone, though not overtly rude, carried an undertone of challenge. Clara felt the familiar prickle of being underestimated, but she simply offered a warm, genuine smile. "I'll do my best, Nurse Miller. Looking forward to learning from you." The morning was a whirlwind. Jess moved with an almost frantic energy, her steps light and quick, her voice a rapid-fire stream of instructions and observations. Clara, though slower, was meticulous. She absorbed every detail, every procedure, every nuance of patient interaction. She noticed the small things Jess, in her haste, sometimes overlooked. The slight tremor in a patient's hand, the unspoken fear in their eyes, the subtle shift in their breathing. During a brief break, Clara found herself beside Nurse Dave Chen, an experienced, kind-faced nurse with a calm demeanor. Dave was meticulously charting, but he offered Clara a friendly smile. "First day, huh? It's a lot, isn't it?" "It is," Clara admitted, a small sigh escaping her. "Everyone moves so fast." Dave chuckled softly. "St. Jude's is a high-performance hospital, but there's more than one way to be a good nurse, Clara. Speed isn't everything." His words were a small balm to her spirit, an ally, perhaps. If you're already feeling the pressure Clara is under and appreciating Dave's kindness, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The afternoon brought Clara to room 312, where Mr. Arthur Finch resided. Mr. Finch was an elderly gentleman, frail and gaunt, his once vibrant eyes now clouded with a deep weariness. He was a terminal patient, his body succumbing to a relentless illness, and his prognosis was grim. He rarely spoke, often staring blankly at the ceiling, a profound sense of resignation emanating from him. Jess had given Clara a quick rundown. "Mr. Finch, terminal. Not much to do but keep him comfortable. He's mostly unresponsive. Just check vitals, administer meds, turn him every 2 hours. Quick in, quick out." Clara entered room 312, her steps soft. Mr. Finch lay in his bed, his breathing shallow. His room, though clean, felt sterile and impersonal. Clara approached his bedside, her movements gentle. She introduced herself, her voice a soothing murmur. "Hello, Mr. Finch. My name is Clara. I'll be your nurse this afternoon. I'm just going to check your vitals, if that's okay." She didn't rush. She took his pulse with a gentle touch, her fingers lingering for a moment longer than strictly necessary, conveying warmth. She adjusted his pillow, smoothed his sheets, and noticed a small framed photograph on his bedside table. A younger Mr. Finch, smiling broadly with a woman and a young girl. "Is this your family, Mr. Finch?" Clara asked softly, knowing he might not respond, but wanting to acknowledge his life, his history. Mr. Finch's eyes, which had been fixed on the ceiling, slowly, almost imperceptibly, shifted towards the photograph. A flicker of something, memory, sadness, crossed his face. He didn't speak, but the subtle movement was enough for Clara. "They look very happy," she continued, her voice gentle. "You have a beautiful family." She administered his medication, explaining each step, even though he seemed unresponsive. She took her time, ensuring his comfort, making sure the IV drip was flowing smoothly, that his skin was clean and dry. She didn't just perform tasks. She performed care. As she was about to leave, she noticed a small, almost imperceptible tear tracing a path down Mr. Finch's temple. He hadn't cried out, hadn't made a sound, but the tear was there, a silent testament to his inner world. Clara didn't rush to wipe it away. Instead, she gently took his hand, her large, warm palm enveloping his frail one. "It's okay, Mr. Finch," she whispered, her voice full of understanding. "It's okay to feel. I'm here." She stayed for a few more minutes, simply holding his hand, her presence a quiet anchor in his lonely room. She wasn't doing anything medical, nothing that would be charted as a procedure. She was simply being present. When she finally left the room, she found Evelyn Reed observing her from the hallway, a clipboard in her hand, her expression unreadable. "Nurse Jensen," Evelyn said, her voice crisp. "You were in there for quite some time. We have other patients requiring attention. Efficiency is key." Clara met Evelyn's gaze, her own eyes unwavering. "I understand, Supervisor Reed, but Mr. Finch was distressed. Sometimes a patient needs more than just medication. They need a human connection." Evelyn's lips thinned slightly. "Compassion is important, Nurse Jensen, but so is time management. We have protocols for a reason." She then moved on, leaving Clara with a sense of quiet defiance. Later that evening, as Clara was preparing to leave, she saw Sarah Finch, Mr. Finch's daughter, sitting by his bedside. Sarah looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed. Clara remembered the young girl in the photograph. "Hello, Miss Finch," Clara said softly. "I'm Nurse Jensen. I was caring for your father this afternoon." Sarah looked up, a wary smile on her face. "Oh, hello. Thank you for looking after him." She paused, then added, He seemed a little more peaceful today. He actually looked at me when I came in. He hasn't done that in days." Clara's heart warmed. "I'm glad to hear that. He's a wonderful man." Sarah's eyes welled up again. "He is. He really is. It's just so hard, watching him fade." Clara gently placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "It is hard, but you're here for him, and that means everything. He knows you're here." Sarah looked at Clara, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Nurse Jensen. You have a very kind presence." Clara left the hospital that night, physically tired but emotionally invigorated. The day had been a clash of ideals. The hospital's relentless pursuit of efficiency versus her own deep-seated belief in the power of human connection. She knew her path wouldn't be easy, that her big presence and slow pace would continue to be scrutinized. But in the quiet tear of Mr. Finch and the grateful eyes of his daughter, she found her validation. She may not run fast, but she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would never leave anyone behind. And that, she realized, was a strength far greater than speed. The sterile walls of St. Jude's were about to learn a new rhythm, a pace set by the heart. If Clara's compassionate approach and her unwavering dedication to her patients are resonating with you, please show your support by giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Every like and subscription helps us continue telling these powerful human stories. The sterile hum of St. Jude's Hospital continued its relentless rhythm, but for Clara Jensen, the sound now carried a different resonance. Her first day had been a crucible, forging a quiet resolve within her. The memory of Mr. Arthur Finch's tear, the subtle shift in his gaze, and Sarah Finch's grateful words echoed in her mind, reaffirming her belief that true nursing transcended checklists and hurried movements. Yet, the tension with nurse supervisor Evelyn Reed lingered, a palpable undercurrent in the oncology ward. Evelyn's sharp eyes continued to follow Clara, a silent assessment of her pace, her methods, her very presence. Nurse Jessica, Jess Miller, Clara's assigned shadow, remained a whirlwind of efficiency, her movements a stark contrast to Clara's deliberate grace. Jess often expressed her frustration, not always subtly. "Clara, you're spending too much time in room 312, Jess remarked one morning, her voice tight with impatience. "Mr. Finch is stable. We have 3 new admissions and a discharge to process. Time is critical." Clara, carefully adjusting Mr. Finch's blanket, met Jess's gaze. "His comfort is critical too, Jess, and a few extra minutes can make all the difference to someone who feels forgotten." Jess merely rolled her eyes, muttering something about emotional labor not being billable, and rushed off to her next task. Clara felt the sting, but she didn't let it deter her. She knew her value wasn't measured by the clock, but by the quality of her care. Dave Chen, however, continued to be a quiet source of support. He often shared a knowing glance with Clara, or offered a word of encouragement. "Don't let them get to you, Clara," he'd say during a coffee break. "Some patients need a nurse who slows down, who truly sees them. You have that gift." His words were a lifeline, reminding Clara that she wasn't alone in her philosophy. Clara's routine quickly established itself. She was always the first to arrive, meticulously preparing her station, reviewing charts with a thoroughness that often surprised her colleagues. Her rounds were unhurried, each patient receiving her full, undivided attention. She took the time to listen, to observe, to connect. She noticed the subtle changes in their breathing, the unspoken anxieties in their eyes, the small victories in their day. While other nurses might rush through a medication round, Clara would pause, explain each pill, and ensure the patient felt heard and understood. Her dedication to Mr. Finch became legendary, almost a quiet defiance against the hospital's fast-paced culture. Every morning, she would enter room 312, her voice a soft melody, her touch gentle. She would talk to him, not just about his medical condition, but about the weather, about the news, about the photograph of his family. She would read excerpts from books, play soft classical music, or simply sit by his side, holding his hand, her presence a warm, comforting anchor. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Mr. Finch began to respond. His eyes, once vacant, now followed Clara's movements. He would offer a faint nod when she spoke, a fragile squeeze of her hand. One afternoon, as Clara was reading a passage from his favorite novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, he surprised her by whispering, "Thank you, Scout." It was a moment that brought tears to Clara's eyes. a testament to the power of human connection. Sarah Finch, Mr. Finch's daughter, became a regular visitor, her face etched with a mixture of grief and hope. She often arrived to find Clara by her father's side, talking softly, or simply holding his hand. "Nurse Jensen," Sarah said one day, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't know what you're doing, but he's more present. He's not just existing anymore. He's living even now. Thank you." If Mr. Finch's small but significant improvements are touching your heart, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The positive feedback from Sarah Finch, however, did not go unnoticed by nurse supervisor Evelyn Reed. While Evelyn appreciated the patient satisfaction, she was also under immense pressure from hospital administration to improve efficiency metrics. Mr. Gregory Hayes, the hospital administrator, was a man obsessed with numbers, patient turnover rates, average length of stay, staff productivity. He saw the hospital as a finely tuned machine, and any deviation from peak efficiency was a red flag. "Evelyn," Mr. Hayes had stated in a recent meeting, his voice devoid of warmth, "our oncology floor's average patient care time is up. We need to streamline. Every minute a bed is occupied, every extra minute a nurse spends with a stable patient impacts our bottom line. I'm seeing some inconsistencies in your new hires charting." Evelyn, in turn, called Clara into her office. The room was stark, efficient, much like Evelyn herself. "Nurse Jensen?" Evelyn began, her tone formal. "Your patient satisfaction scores are excellent. I'll give you that. But your charting indicates you're spending significantly more time with certain patients than our protocol suggests, and your overall task completion rate is consistently below the unit average." Clara sat upright, her hands clasped in her lap. "Supervisor Reed, I believe the quality of care I provide justifies the time, especially for patients like Mr. Finch, who are at the end of their lives. They need dignity, comfort, and presence, not just medical procedures." Evelyn sighed, rubbing her temples. "I understand the sentiment, Clara, truly, but St. Jude's is a business. We have a reputation for cutting-edge treatment and rapid recovery. We can't afford to have nurses who operate at a different pace. It impacts the entire unit's efficiency, and frankly, it sets a precedent. A precedent for compassion?" Clara asked, her voice soft but firm. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "A precedent for inefficiency, Nurse Jensen. I need you to pick up the pace. Adhere strictly to the time allocations. If you can't, we'll have to reconsider your fit for this unit." The threat hung heavy in the air. Clara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She was facing the very systemic pressure she had always known existed, but now it was direct, personal. That evening, Jess, who had overheard parts of the conversation, approached Clara. "Look, Clara," Jess said, her usual hurried demeanor softened by a rare moment of empathy. "I get it. You're good with patience, but Evelyn's right. You can't fight the system. It's just how it is. You'll burn out, or worse, you'll be out of a job." Clara looked at Jess, a flicker of sadness in her eyes. "But what kind of nursing is that, Jess? If we can't give a dying man a few extra minutes of comfort, what are we really doing here?" Jess didn't have an answer. She just shrugged, a look of resignation on her face, and walked away. The pressure mounted. Clara tried to speed up, to streamline, to fit into the mold St. Jude's demanded, but every hurried movement felt like a betrayal of her patience, a compromise of her core values. She found herself rushing through tasks, her heart aching with the knowledge that she wasn't giving her best. Her sleep became restless, haunted by the feeling of being torn between her calling and her job. One particularly challenging day, a new patient, Ms. Eleanor Vance, was admitted to the oncology floor. Ms. Vance was a fiercely independent woman in her late 60s, recently diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. She was terrified, angry, and deeply distrustful of the medical system. She refused medication, snapped at nurses, and often pulled out her IVs. Other nurses found her difficult, labeling her non-compliant. Jess, after a particularly frustrating encounter, threw her hands up. "She's impossible. She won't listen to anyone. I can't get her to take her pain meds." Evelyn, observing the chaos, turned to Clara. "Nurse Jensen, see what you can do with Ms. Vance. And try to be efficient about it." There was a subtle challenge in her tone, a test. Clara entered Ms. Vance's room, her usual calm presence preceding her. Ms. Vance lay in bed, her back to the door, her body rigid with tension. "Go away!" she snapped, without turning. "I don't want any more needles, any more pills, any more false promises." Clara didn't approach immediately. She simply pulled up a chair, a little distance from the bed, and sat down. "I understand you're feeling overwhelmed, Ms. Vance," Clara said, her voice soft and steady. "My name is Clara. I'm not here to force anything on you. I'm just here to listen, if you'd like to talk." Silence. A long, heavy silence. Clara didn't push. She just sat, her presence a quiet, non-judgmental anchor. After several minutes, Ms. Vance slowly turned, her eyes, red-rimmed and filled with fear, meeting Clara's. "What's the point?" Ms. Vance whispered, her voice cracking. "It's all over anyway." Clara listened. She didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. She simply listened, her eyes conveying deep empathy. She allowed Ms. Vance to vent her anger, her fear, her despair. She acknowledged her pain, validated her feelings. "It's okay to be angry, Ms. Vance," Clara said gently. "It's okay to be scared. What you're going through is incredibly difficult, but you don't have to go through it alone." Slowly, painstakingly, Ms. Vance began to open up. She spoke of her life, her regrets, her fear of losing control. Clara listened, her large, warm hand occasionally resting on Ms. Vance's arm, a gesture of comfort and solidarity. After an hour, Ms. Vance, exhausted but calmer, finally agreed to take her pain medication. "Thank you, Clara," Ms. Vance whispered, her voice softer than before. "Thank you for just being here." Clara left the room, a quiet triumph in her heart. She had not been fast. She had not been efficient by the hospital's metrics, but she had reached a patient no one else could, providing not just medication, but true healing. If Clara's ability to connect with even the most challenging patients is inspiring you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The incident with Ms. Vance, however, did not escape Evelyn Reed's attention. She had observed the entire interaction through the glass panel of the door, her expression a mixture of frustration and grudging respect. Later that day, Evelyn called Clara into her office again. This time, Mr. Gregory Hayes, the hospital administrator, was also present, his face grim. "Nurse Jensen," Mr. Hayes began, his voice cold and formal, "we've received reports regarding your unconventional approach to patient care. While we appreciate patient satisfaction, your consistent deviation from our efficiency protocols is becoming a serious concern. Your time with Ms. Vance today, for example, was far beyond what is acceptable." Clara felt her heart pound, but she met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "Mr. Hayes, Ms. Vance was refusing all care. She was in distress. My approach allowed her to accept her medication and find some peace. Is that not the ultimate goal of patient care? The goal is efficient, standardized care, Nurse Jensen," Mr. Hayes retorted, his voice rising. "We cannot afford to have nurses spending an hour with a single patient when others are waiting. This is a high-volume facility. We have metrics to meet, budgets to balance." "And what about the human cost of those metrics, Mr. Hayes?" Clara asked, her voice clear and steady, despite the tremor in her hands. "What about the dignity of a dying patient? What about the fear of a woman facing a terminal diagnosis? Are those not part of the bottom line of a hospital?" Evelyn Reed, who had been silent, shifted uncomfortably. She looked at Clara, then at Mr. Hayes, a conflict playing out on her face. "Nurse Jensen," Mr. Hayes continued, ignoring Clara's question, "we appreciate your passion, but your methods are simply not compatible with St. Jude's operational model. We need nurses who can keep pace, who can adhere to our standards of efficiency. I'm afraid if you cannot adapt, we will have to consider other options." The words hung in the air, a thinly veiled threat of dismissal. Clara felt a wave of despair wash over her. All her hard work, her dedication, her unwavering belief in compassionate care seemed to be crashing against the unyielding wall of corporate efficiency. She looked at Evelyn, hoping for some support, some understanding. Evelyn's face remained impassive, her gaze fixed on Mr. Hayes. Clara knew she was at a crossroads. She could try to conform, to sacrifice her principles for the sake of her job, or she could stand her ground, risking everything for what she believed was right. As she looked at Mr. Hayes, She thought of Mr. Finch, of Ms. Vance, of all the patients who needed more than just speed. She thought of her own journey, the battles she had fought to get here. She may not run fast, but she never left anyone behind, and she wasn't about to start now. The fight for the heart of St. Jude's had just begun. The thinly veiled threat of dismissal from Mr. Gregory Hayes echoed in Clara Jensen's mind, a chilling counterpoint to the rhythmic beeps and whispers of the oncology ward. The meeting had left her shaken, but not broken. As she walked out of Evelyn Reed's office, the sterile air felt heavier, the fluorescent lights harsher. She knew the stakes. Her job, her calling, her very identity as a nurse hung in the balance. But as she looked at the faces of the patients she passed, the anxious, the weary, the hopeful, she knew she couldn't compromise. She may not run fast, but she would never leave her principles behind. The days that followed were a tightrope walk. Clara tried, genuinely, to adhere more strictly to the time allocations. She moved with a renewed sense of urgency, her steps a little quicker, her charting a little more concise. But every hurried action felt like a betrayal. When she rushed through a patient's morning care, she saw the flicker of disappointment in their eyes. When she couldn't linger to answer a question, she felt the pang of guilt. Her heart, her very essence as a nurse, rebelled against the imposed speed. Her internal struggle was evident. Dave Chen noticed her subdued demeanor. "Everything all right, Clara?" he asked one afternoon, finding her staring blankly at a chart. "You seem different." Clara sighed, running a hand through her hair. "They want me to be faster, Dave. More efficient. Less me." Dave nodded, his expression sympathetic. "It's tough. This place can try to squeeze the soul out of you. But don't let it, Clara. Don't you dare." Evelyn Reed, ever observant, watched Clara closely. She saw the effort Clara was making to conform, but she also saw the toll it was taking. She noticed the subtle dip in Clara's usual vibrant energy, the way her shoulders seemed a little more slumped. Evelyn, a nurse herself for decades before moving into supervision, understood the profound connection Clara forged with her patients. She had seen the positive impact, particularly with Mr. Finch and Ms. Vance. A conflict began to brew within Evelyn, a quiet battle between the demands of administration and the undeniable evidence of Clara's unique, effective care. Meanwhile, Mr. Arthur Finch continued his slow, dignified decline. But thanks to Clara's consistent presence, his final days were marked by a surprising serenity. He now greeted Clara with a weak smile, sometimes even a soft, "Hello, Clara." Sarah Finch, his daughter, was a constant presence, and her gratitude towards Clara deepened with each visit. "Nurse Jensen," Sarah said one afternoon, her voice thick with emotion, "My father told me he feels safe when you're here. He said you make him feel like a person, not just a patient. That means more than you can ever know." This feedback, though heartwarming, only intensified the pressure on Evelyn. Patient satisfaction was crucial, but so were the numbers Mr. Hayes demanded. If Clara's struggle to balance compassion with hospital demands is resonating with you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. A new challenge arrived on the oncology floor in the form of Mrs. Beatrice "Bea" Holloway, a renowned opera singer in her late 70s, admitted with a sudden, severe respiratory crisis. Mrs. Holloway was not only physically frail, but also deeply anxious, her fear manifesting as extreme agitation and refusal of necessary treatments. She was accustomed to being in control, and the loss of her voice, her breath, and her independence was terrifying her. Jess Miller, assigned to Mrs. Holloway, found herself completely overwhelmed. "She won't let me touch her," Jess exclaimed to Dave, her face flushed with frustration. "She keeps pulling off her oxygen mask, and she refuses to let me administer her nebulizer treatment. Her oxygen levels are dropping." Dr. Lena Sharma, the attending physician, a sharp and empathetic doctor, was immediately concerned. "We need to get her oxygen up, and that nebulizer is critical. If she continues to refuse, her condition will rapidly deteriorate." Dr. Sharma looked at Evelyn. "Who can we get in there?" "Someone with a calming presence." Evelyn, after a moment of hesitation, turned to Clara. "Nurse Jensen, can you try with Mrs. Holloway? She's highly agitated and refusing care." There was a hint of desperation in Evelyn's voice, a tacit acknowledgement of Clara's unique ability. Clara nodded, her heart going out to the terrified woman. She entered Mrs. Holloway's room, her steps slow and deliberate. Mrs. Holloway was sitting upright in bed, her eyes wide with fear, clutching her chest, her breathing labored and shallow. The oxygen mask lay discarded on the bed. "Mrs. Holloway," Clara said softly, her voice a soothing balm in the tense room. "My name is Clara. I understand you're feeling very frightened right now. It's okay to be scared." Mrs. Holloway looked at Clara, her eyes darting nervously. "They're trying to suffocate me," she rasped, her voice a mere whisper. "I can't breathe with that thing on." Clara didn't immediately try to put the mask back on. Instead, she pulled up a chair, just as she had with Ms. Vance, and sat down. "I hear you, Mrs. Holloway. It must feel very frightening to not be able to breathe properly. And that mask can feel very intrusive, but it's there to help you. It's like a gentle breeze, bringing you the air you need." Clara then did something unexpected. She began to hum, a soft melodic tune, a familiar aria from an opera. Mrs. Holloway, a renowned opera singer, visibly stiffened. Then slowly, her eyes widened. The humming was gentle, non-threatening, a familiar comfort in a terrifying situation. "Is that O mio babino caro?" Mrs. Holloway whispered, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "It is," Clara replied, her voice warm. "It's one of my favorites. I imagine you've sung it beautifully many times." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Mrs. Holloway's lips. Clara continued to hum, her presence a calming anchor. Slowly, Mrs. Holloway's breathing began to even out. Her shoulders relaxed. "May I try to put the oxygen mask back on, Mrs. Holloway?" Clara asked gently, holding it up. "Just for a little while. It will help you breathe easier. And then we can get you that nebulizer treatment to open up your airways." Mrs. Holloway hesitated. Then slowly, she nodded. Clara carefully placed the mask over her face, adjusting it gently. Mrs. Holloway didn't fight it. Clara then calmly administered the nebulizer, explaining each step, her voice a steady, reassuring presence. Within 20 minutes, Mrs. Holloway's oxygen levels had stabilized, and her breathing was significantly less labored. Dr. Sharma, who had been observing from the doorway with Evelyn, looked at Clara with profound admiration. "Nurse Jensen," Dr. Sharma said, her voice filled with respect. "That was truly remarkable. You reached her when no one else could. Her oxygen levels are back to a safe range. Thank you." Evelyn Reed, standing beside Dr. Sharma, watched the interaction, a complex mix of emotions on her face. She had seen Clara's inefficiency in action, but she had also witnessed a profound act of healing that transcended medical procedures. She saw the genuine connection, the intuitive understanding, the sheer heart that Clara brought to her work. The numbers for a moment seemed utterly irrelevant. If Clara's unique approach to patient care and her ability to connect with Mrs. Holloway are inspiring you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The success with Mrs. Holloway, however, did not entirely erase the administrative pressure. Mr. Gregory Hayes, still focused on the bottom line, scheduled another meeting with Evelyn and Clara. This time, Dr. Sharma was also invited, a testament to the gravity of the situation. "Nurse Jensen," Mr. Hayes began, his tone still formal, but with a hint of something less aggressive, perhaps due to Dr. Sharma's presence. "While we acknowledge your success with Mrs. Holloway and the positive feedback from Mr. Finch's family, your overall metrics remain a concern. We cannot have a nurse operating outside our established efficiency parameters. It creates an imbalance." Clara took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "Mr. Hayes, with all due respect, what good are efficiency parameters if they compromise the very essence of patient care?" Mrs. Holloway was in distress, refusing treatment. My approach, though not fast, prevented a medical emergency and ensured she received the care she desperately needed. Mr. Finch, a terminal patient, found dignity and peace in his final days because I took the time to see him as a person. Are these not the true metrics of a hospital's success? Dr. Sharma, who had been listening intently, finally spoke. "Mr. Hayes, I must concur with Nurse Jensen. Her intervention with Mrs. Holloway was not just compassionate, it was medically critical. Her ability to de-escalate and build trust allowed us to administer life-saving treatment. If we had adhered strictly to efficiency, we might have had a far worse outcome, and the emotional well-being of our terminal patients and their families is a crucial aspect of holistic care." Nurse Jensen provides that. Evelyn Reed, after a moment of internal deliberation, finally spoke up, her voice clear and firm. Mr. Hayes, I have observed Nurse Jensen closely. While her methods may seem unconventional by our current metrics, her impact on patient well-being, particularly with our most challenging and vulnerable patients, is undeniable. She consistently achieves outcomes that other nurses, operating at a faster pace, cannot. Her approach, while slower, often prevents further complications and improves overall patient experience, which ultimately reflects positively on St. Jude's reputation. Mr. Hayes looked from Clara to Dr. Sharma, then to Evelyn, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He had expected Evelyn to side with him, to uphold the administrative line. Her defense of Clara was unexpected and powerful. The room fell silent, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Clara felt a surge of gratitude towards Evelyn and Dr. Sharma. She wasn't alone. She had stood her ground, and now others were standing with her. The battle wasn't over, but she had found allies, and her unyielding heart had begun to chip away at the fortress of efficiency. She knew, with a deep certainty, that the true measure of a nurse, and indeed a hospital, was not in how fast they ran, but in how deeply they cared, and how steadfastly they refused to leave anyone behind. The fight for the soul of St. Jude's was far from over, but Clara had just won a crucial skirmish. The air in Evelyn Reed's office crackled with an unspoken tension after Dr. Lena Sharma and Evelyn herself had staunchly defended Clara Jensen. Mr. Gregory Hayes, the hospital administrator, stood rigid, his face a mask of calculated frustration. He was a man of numbers, of efficiency reports and bottom lines, and the emotional arguments, however compelling, were an unwelcome disruption to his meticulously ordered world. He had expected a swift, decisive resolution, Clara's compliance or her departure. Instead, he faced a united front from his most respected physician and his usually pragmatic nursing supervisor. I understand your points, Dr. Sharma, Supervisor Reed, Mr. Hayes finally conceded. His voice clipped, though lacking its previous dismissive edge. He knew he couldn't simply override the medical and supervisory expertise in the room, especially with Dr. Sharma's reputation. However, the operational efficiency of St. Jude's is paramount. We cannot simply disregard established protocols. Nurse Jensen, your methods, while yielding positive anecdotal results, still represent a significant deviation from our standard operating procedures. He paused, his gaze sweeping over Clara, then Evelyn. Here is my proposal. We will not proceed with any disciplinary action at this time. However, Nurse Jensen, I expect you to demonstrate, empirically, how your approach can be integrated without compromising overall unit efficiency. Evelyn, I want you to work with Nurse Jensen to track her patient outcomes, satisfaction scores, and yes, her time management. Over the next 3 months, we will conduct a formal review at the end of that period. If there is no demonstrable improvement in efficiency, or if her methods continue to negatively impact the unit's flow, then we will revisit this discussion. It was a reprieve, a trial by fire, but a chance nonetheless. Clara felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by a renewed sense of determination. She had 3 months to prove that compassion wasn't a luxury, but an integral part of effective healthcare. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, Clara said, her voice firm. I accept the challenge. I believe that true efficiency in healthcare isn't just about speed, but about preventing complications, improving patient recovery, and fostering trust. I am confident I can demonstrate that, Mr. Hayes merely grunted, a non-committal sound, and left the office. Evelyn, however, looked at Clara with a new expression, a blend of respect, relief, and a hint of shared purpose. Clara, Evelyn said, using her first name for the first time outside of a casual setting. That was quite a stand you took, and you were right. I've seen your impact. We'll make this work. Clara felt a profound sense of gratitude. Evelyn, the embodiment of hospital protocol, was now her ally. The fortress of efficiency had a crack in its wall, and Clara was determined to widen it. If you're feeling the tension and hope for Clara's success in this trial, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The next 3 months were a period of intense focus for Clara. She continued her patient-centered approach, but with a heightened awareness of her time. She became even more meticulous in her planning, optimizing her movements, and delegating non-critical tasks more effectively. She found ways to integrate her compassionate care within the existing framework, proving that a few extra minutes of genuine connection could save hours of rework, de-escalation, or patient non-compliance later on. She worked closely with Evelyn, who, to Clara's surprise, became an active participant in her mission. Evelyn helped Clara refine her charting to better reflect the value of her time spent, noting instances where Clara's intervention prevented a fall, calmed an agitated patient, or ensured medication adherence, thereby reducing potential readmissions or complications. They began to collect data, not just on speed, but on the quality of outcomes. Clara's influence began to subtly spread across the oncology floor. Dave Chen, already an advocate, openly praised Clara's methods, often directing new nurses to observe her. Even Nurse Jessica Jess Miller, initially skeptical, started to show signs of change. She would occasionally pause a little longer with a patient, offer a comforting word, or take the time to explain a procedure more thoroughly. She saw the tangible difference Clara was making, especially with the more challenging patients. Mr. Arthur Finch, though his time was drawing to a close, continued to be a testament to Clara's care. His final weeks were peaceful, filled with quiet moments of connection with Clara and his daughter, Sarah. He passed away gently, surrounded by love, his dignity preserved. Sarah Finch, heartbroken but deeply grateful, sought Clara out after his passing. "Clara," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face, "you gave my father the greatest gift anyone could have given him. You gave him peace, and you made him feel seen, right to the very end. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart." Sarah's heartfelt testimony, shared with Dr. Sharma and eventually with Evelyn, became a powerful piece of evidence in Clara's favor. Ms. Eleanor Vance, the opera singer, continued her battle with cancer, but with Clara's consistent care, she found a renewed sense of agency. She trusted Clara implicitly, allowing her to guide her through difficult treatments and painful procedures. "You're my anchor, Clara," Ms. Vance would often say. "You remind me that even when my body fails, my spirit can still sing." If Clara's profound impact on her patients, even in their final moments, is moving you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. As the 3-month review approached, the hospital was suddenly plunged into an unprecedented crisis. A severe winter storm, dubbed the Great Freeze, swept through the region, causing widespread power outages and treacherous road conditions. St. Jude's, though equipped with backup generators, found its resources stretched to the limit. Staff struggled to get to work, supply chains were disrupted, and the emergency room was overwhelmed with storm-related injuries and illnesses. On the oncology floor, the situation was particularly dire. Many patients were immunocompromised, vulnerable to the cold and the stress. The backup generators provided essential power, but the heating struggled to keep up, and the constant hum of the generators added to the anxiety. With staff shortages, nurses were spread thin, rushing from one emergency to another. Panic began to ripple through the patients. In the midst of the chaos, Clara Jensen remained a beacon of calm. Her deliberate pace, once criticized, now became her greatest asset. While other nurses, exhausted and stressed, moved with frantic energy, Clara moved with a steady, reassuring presence. She didn't run fast, but she never left anyone behind. She organized her patients, ensuring the most vulnerable were closest to the few working heaters. She meticulously checked on each one, not just their vitals, but their emotional state, offering words of comfort, a warm blanket, a gentle touch. She noticed the subtle signs of hypothermia in an elderly patient that a hurried glance might miss. She used her strength to help move a bed-bound patient to a warmer spot, something a smaller nurse might struggle with. When the main generator briefly flickered and died, plunging the floor into a terrifying darkness before the auxiliary kicked in, it was Clara's voice that cut through the rising panic. "It's all right, everyone," she announced, her voice clear and strong, holding a flashlight. "Just a momentary blip. Our backup is working. We're safe. We're all in this together." Her calm demeanor, her unwavering presence, quelled the fear more effectively than any alarm. She worked tirelessly, her large frame a comforting presence in every room. She helped Jess Miller manage a sudden influx of new patients, guiding her through the chaos with quiet instructions and steady support. She assisted Dave Chen in rationing limited supplies, her organizational skills proving invaluable. She even found time to sit with Ms. Vance, humming a soft aria to soothe her anxiety as the storm raged outside. Dr. Lena Sharma, working double shifts, observed Clara's leadership throughout the crisis. She saw Clara not just as a nurse, but as a pillar of strength, a true leader who thrived under pressure, whose compassion was a force multiplier. Mr. Gregory Hayes, the hospital administrator, was forced to spend days at the hospital, overseeing the crisis. He walked the floors, his face grim, witnessing the raw reality of healthcare under extreme duress. He saw the frantic energy of some, the exhaustion of others. And then he saw Clara, moving with her steady, deliberate pace, her eyes missing nothing, her presence a calming anchor in the storm. He saw her comforting a crying patient, efficiently organizing a makeshift supply station, and leading a small team of nurses to move a critical patient to a safer area. He saw the trust in the patient's eyes when she spoke, the relief in her colleagues' faces when she offered help. He saw the true meaning of efficiency, not just speed, but resilience, adaptability, and the profound human connection that kept spirits from breaking. He saw that Clara's slow pace was, in fact, the most effective and efficient approach when true care was needed. If Clara's leadership and unwavering calm during this crisis are inspiring you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps us continue to share these powerful and uplifting stories. The storm eventually passed, leaving behind a city blanketed in snow, but St. Jude's had weathered the crisis, largely thanks to the extraordinary efforts of its staff. In the aftermath, a formal review was held, not just of Clara's performance, but of the hospital's response to the storm. Mr. Gregory Hayes stood before the hospital board, Dr. Sharma, Evelyn Reed, and Clara present. His face, usually stern, now held a newfound humility. Members of the board, Mr. Hayes began, his voice clear and resonant. For the past 3 months, we have been evaluating Nurse Clara Jensen's performance. I admit, I had concerns about her adherence to our efficiency metrics. I believed her pace was a liability. He paused, looking directly at Clara, a profound respect in his eyes. I was wrong. He continued. During the Great Freeze, Nurse Jensen demonstrated leadership, resilience, and an unparalleled commitment to patient care that transcended any metric. Her calm demeanor, her meticulous attention to detail, and her profound ability to connect with patients not only ensured their comfort and safety, but in several instances, prevented critical complications. She proved that true efficiency in healthcare is not just about how fast you run, but about how deeply you care and how steadfastly you refuse to leave anyone behind. Dr. Sharma nodded in agreement. Evelyn Reed, her eyes shining with pride, added, Clara's approach fosters trust, reduces anxiety, and ultimately leads to better patient outcomes. She has shown us that compassion is not a deviation from protocol. It is the very foundation of effective nursing. The board, deeply impressed by the testimonies and the undeniable evidence of Clara's impact during the crisis, unanimously approved a new initiative, the Jensen Model of Compassionate Care, a program designed to integrate Clara's patient-centered philosophy into the hospital's training and protocols. And for Clara herself, there was a new role, Director of Patient Advocacy and Holistic Care. It was a position created specifically for her, allowing her to shape the future of nursing at St. Jude's, ensuring that the human element remained at the heart of every decision. Clara Jensen, the big nurse who wasn't the fastest in the hallway, had not only found her place, but had transformed an entire institution. She had proven that compassion doesn't need speed, only heart. Her journey was a testament to the unseen strength that lies within, the power of an unyielding heart, and the profound truth that in the relentless ballet of life and death, the most meaningful care is often found in the gentle hands that never leave anyone behind. Years later, St. Jude's Hospital was renowned not just for its cutting-edge treatments, but for its deeply compassionate care. The Jensen model was studied and adopted by hospitals across the country. Clara, now a respected leader and mentor, still walked the halls, her steps deliberate, her presence a comforting anchor. She still took the time to sit with patients, to hold a hand, to offer a quiet word. She still wasn't the fastest, but she was, without a doubt, the most impactful. And in every gentle touch, every reassuring smile, She reminded everyone that the true fortress of healing was built not with speed, but with heart. What an incredibly inspiring and powerful conclusion to Clara's journey. If her story of unwavering compassion, resilience, and transforming an entire hospital has touched your heart, please show your support. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs a dose of inspiration, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more powerful and uplifting stories like this one. Your engagement helps us continue to create content that celebrates the human spirit. Thank you for watching.